everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet here with the dude and Guy Goldstein, who is in a bomb shelter in Israel. And, it's very interesting, Guy, because you could pretty much use any excuse at this point, and I have to be okay with it. Could we start 20 minutes later? Could we start 45 minutes later? And what am I going to say?
Listen, we have scheduling conflicts. Sometimes you wanna do a podcast. Sometimes the Ayatollah wants to do something. It is a challenge.
Yeah, me and the Ayatollah. But I don't. Man, did you see this? I just thought this was really funny, and I love what Israel and people wonder how we survive. It's by creating dating apps in bomb shelters. It's like setting up like a Yelp for which bomb shelters are the best in town. I don't know if you saw that, but it's sort of like one of those things in these desperate and dire times. As last night, Guy, 150, at least 150, 200 missiles flown in his direction from Lebanon and is in the bomb shelter with his family. Those are things you have to laugh about. And those are things you have to sort of like realize like,
Do
there's
they
nothing.
do they have a Google local for bomb shelters? Like, oh, this place has great coffee.
Yeah, of course. Man, I see that there actually is. There are reviews. There are Google reviews.
Fantastic.
There's an app called Can I Shower, which figures out statistically whether or not you're likely to have your shower interrupted by sirens. The degree of practical comic innovation has been quite remarkable.
That's great. That is
Yeah.
so good.
So I just think it's really a remarkable thing.
There should be a dating app for bomb
They do.
shelters.
I said they have that.
There is.
Did you not hear me when I started this show? I
missed
said
that. The dating
it was
thing?
like,
That's
are you not
fantastic.
listening to me from the beginning? I said they have
That's
a
a Tel
dating
Aviv
app.
thing.
That's
Oh,
why I
great.
said that's why I said I'm moving there right now. Stuck in a shelter with me.
Captive audience.
It's exactly. But you don't want to get a bad review on the dating app because then you're like stuck. You're going from shelter to shelter. Hey, there's that guy from the other shelter. He's no good. Word spreads
Double
quickly.
dips. He double
Yeah.
dips. Don't let him near the chips.
But in all seriousness, and thank God, out of the 150 rockets, only 2 people were injured. And then we wake up. Then we see the news today of obviously the Old Dominion thing, which is a college. He was a former person a shooter who identifies himself as ISIS, who belonged
Another
to our.
Muslim shooter is running through a university shooting up kids.
Who was no, but he was also
He was in the armed forces
he was in the armed forces, and he converted to Islam.
to Islam, and he was convicted of having he was convicted of having provided material support to ISIS, and
They
for
let him
some
out?
reason that can.
They let him out. That
I don't even think they put him in somewhere. I don't know what happened to him, but it seems as though it didn't get in his way at all.
Yeah, and as I always say, and I said this to somebody today, it's like this is before I even knew it. I was referring to the synagogue person who's Lebanese, a Lebanese national, or he's an American national from Lebanon. That they probably were on the FBI radar. This ISIS person was obviously on the FBI radar. And this makes you question again, what the hell is going on? How are these people on our radar? And this is like at least the 10th example of these people being on our radar. And at what point do you say, that the good of the people has to come before the good of the one?
Activate the interceptors.
Yeah. I like that.
And by the way, I mean, we're talking about this on a night in which there were there have been 3 separate instances, 2 targeting Jews in different countries around the world. There was one in Norway and one in Michigan, which has been at the largest Hebrew congregation in North America, I believe, which is. Yeah, thank God the security guard was armed and managed to neutralize the shooter, and only one security guard was injured, because it could have been much more tragic.
Well, I think the
But again,
his bomb failed to detonate, right? He had a
The-
car full of explosives that he
He
drove
had-
through the school. He
I think
not
part of
through,
it,
straight into.
down the hallway. I mean,
They were right through
Yeah.
the glass doors. And part of it did detonate a little bit as far as fire goes, because they're reporting that 8 first responders had to be brought to the hospital. So praying they're all okay. And yes, this is the best case scenario. There was nothing going on there at that time.
It's not the best case scenario. It's a miracle.
So yeah, it's a
Again,
miracle. Yes.
like the
It's
fact that these things consistently fail is a
well said.
combination of the stupidity of the people that hate the West and the fact that there's someone watching over us. That's the only way to look at it. How many times can the bombs not go off before we have to call it, we call it divine protection?
But you see, here's the problem, guy with man. Here's the biggest problem with what he's raising is, thank God the bombs aren't going off. As he said, it's a miracle. Thank God, because of the Iron Dome and a lot of other things, the missiles aren't landing. But the left and the woke right always talk about proportionality, right? This is like, and this really is the big part of it, is like, do we need to die in order to protect ourselves? And that's the whole point of Israel for us, is that we don't need to die for us to protect ourselves. We are a people that don't want to play victim and want to make sure that our kids and our grandkids grow up in a much better life than we have to. Guy does not want his kids having to take his kids into bomb shelters in their houses.
The response deliberately needs to be disproportionate. You don't want to get bombed. You don't want to lose your houses. You don't want to lose your village. Don't attack us. That's as simple as it is. So I am all for disproportionate retaliation. Anytime there's something that goes on, I've been saying this about Gaza forever. They were lobbing rockets since, what was it, 2005, right? That's when they took over.
Yes.
But since the day they got their autonomy, that was the first thing
It
they
was
decided to do.
2005, but yes.
And every time they would lob a rocket, the Israelis wouldn't do much in response.
They would respond proportionately.
They would say, well, we're going to do a ground invasion. They would amass troops, and then they would negotiate, and it would go away. And meanwhile, these guys were building tunnels and doing everything. For every rocket coming across, there should have been 1 square mile flattened. Period. End of story. They shot 2,500 of them. There would be 2,500 square miles flattened. Disproportionate, equal, a measured response.
Flattened and then annexed, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. Who cares what you turn it into? It doesn't matter. These Egyptians go back to Egypt. So if you have to drive them back by doing that, what happens is that when the Israelis come out and they start making these statements about proportionality and start being defensive about your response, you've already lost the argument. People are seeing.
But
go ahead.
You compare that to Pete Hegseth talking about the war in Iran.
Love them.
Our response is going to be disproportionate, and that's exactly the way we want it. That's how you do war.
And just for the record, I just want to clear it up for the records. We handed over Gaza to the quote-unquote Palestinians in 2005. Hamas, 2 years later, I believe it was June, launched their first attack. Within 2 years.
But this actually brings us back to a more challenging question, which is when you've got, and we're talking about the lone wolves hunting in packs, and we started talking about what happened in Virginia. We started talking a bit about what happened in Michigan. But again, we've been talking about this on the podcast for a couple of weeks now. Even though we've interchanged hosts, every host has come up with more or less the same point, which is there is a pattern here that is being hidden behind the term lone wolf. And you cannot keep referring to these things as lone wolves when there is a consistent pattern of insert person into mosque long enough, and when these trigger events happen, magically by coincidence, it happens to be these people that come out and kill people. And then the question is, again, with Gaza, it's easy. You can glass Gaza. You can push them back. With Iran, you can bomb them back into the 7th century. What do you do? It's in New York. What do you do? When it's in DC? And then you come to the question of how does the United States have to address the problem of Islamic radicalism being native in the States? And by the way, this is a question that's been on the mind of American leaders since the very beginning. I think it was Thomas Jefferson Thomas Jefferson once debated whether or not freedom of religion could exist in a world where Islam exists. And so it's a serious question, because once you get past all the lone wolfism, you realize there is a group of people who consider themselves part of the nation of the Islamic Ummah, the nation, Islamic nation. not Nation of Islam. That's a different group of crazy people. And these people consider any attack on what they consider to be Islam as an attack by the West on Islam, and they consider it their calling, their religious obligation to fight back with violence. And so the fact that most of them don't do it is great. It's wonderful. I am very glad that most of the Muslims in America do not behave in the way that Islam demands that they behave. But the fact that some of them do is not surprising. And we're 12 days into a war, and this is the fifth incident. I mean, how. Yeah.
I see it as a major problem from the liberals in this country that will gloss over all of the items that talk about beheading the infidels and you must wage jihad on them and all of that stuff and talk about inclusivity and diversity is our strength. Diversity is not our strength. Diversity has never been any nation's strength. Your strength comes from patriotism. Your strength comes from pride in your country, pride in your heritage. Now, this is a nation built on immigrants for sure, but every single group that has come here has assimilated, besides for this group. And then you have, so I see it as a ultra liberal Democrat Party problem. You don't see it as much on the right. You don't see it as a Republican problem.
Well, you see it a little bit with on the libertarian wing of on the right of the right as well, who just believes that the government shouldn't interfere in anyone's religious practice. Again, it's there is a constitutional question here. There is a fundamental question of what do you do when you identify something that's defined itself as a religion in the current discourse as being hostile to your country, because Islam is not just a religion. It's a political movement in a lot of ways. It is an imperial movement. It is an empire in a lot of ways. And so it has this mixed identity, just like Judaism has a mixed identity. They're not as simple as the construct that they're painted under, but the construct that they've used as their banner gives them almost blanket immunity from, I guess, from consequence, at the same time as the Islamophobia label that they invented for themselves in the 90s has given them blanket immunity from criticism altogether. And so
By the
now
way,
they can't be criticized and they can't suffer consequences for their action.
I just want to jump in. The Old Dominion shooter, whose name is Muhammad Baylor, or his name was Muhammad Baylor Jalal, was actually sentenced to 11 years in prison and got released in 2024. So I just wanted to, fact check ourselves.
With our
Well, the reform process really worked.
That's what we're talking about. So it's the judicial reform process that they've enacted in a lot of these woke states. California emptied its prisons during COVID in the name of judicial reform. And then you have these activist judges just letting people out. We saw those two kids that stomped that kid to death outside of the LeBron James High School. One got, I think, 18 months and the other one got 8 months in jail. That was it.
Which is nothing, which means like 3 months.
Nothing.
Which
Nothing.
literally
They beat two black kids beat a white kid to death outside of LeBron James High School. The guy was
Well, there was also an American Israeli that was beaten in, I think it was in Florida, if I remember correctly, just yesterday, which has become so minor an incident that was California.
Yeah,
but again, it's so many things have happened that it's not even on the radar of things to talk about.
It was by 3 people. It was by 3. I want to say Islamic.
I don't even know. Are they Islamic? Because I seen something that said that they were Assyrian. It was a little confusing, but clearly this guy was beaten up because they heard him speaking Hebrew. 3 of them attacked them. 2 of them are jujitsu fighters, and I think the third is a lawyer. Well, they've identified all of them. They used facial recognition software. They got them all. So these guys are going to be facing something. But it's California. They'll probably just get a slap on the wrist and be out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I mean, Guy, I want to get to this point, though. To the bigger point is this. There are a lot of people who have been talking about this, like you said, for a long time. I mean, obviously, this goes back to Jefferson. The greatest tool the left has used is to make people like us who are talking about this stuff, labeling us Islamophobes. And anybody that speaks out loud about what should be done with this issue is canceled, called Islamophobes, or marginalized. And it's an extreme danger if you speak up about this. So what do you get instead? You get 300 mosques built in Texas. You get Dearborn, Michigan. You get Paterson, New Jersey. And you get prayer services going on in New York every day with Mamdani leading services. That's what we get because we were told to shut up. And
it's worth it's worth remembering that Islamophobia was a term that was introduced by CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations, which is which was founded by unindicted co-conspirators in the Holy Land Foundation. So they are affiliates of both Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, and they are still treated as a legitimate civil rights organization in the United States today. They were part of the White House Committee on Anti-Semitism, thanks to Joe Biden under the last administration, or maybe thanks to whatever Kamala Harris's wife was called. But uh, these people who are connected with both known terrorist entities and an organization with a documented record of how it plans to conquer America are being allowed to silence us. And then people are saying that the Jews are censoring people. Right? There is no place where freedom of speech is more restricted in America today than the discourse on Islam, and it's violently dangerous to American lives today.
Listen, you're 100% right, man. You know, I actually wrote a post about this the other day, sort of jokingly, but being serious at the same time, is name me a religion that has a blessing that all of us will say something back. But if in Islam, if you hear Allah Akbar, we're all running for the hills. I mean, we're literally running for the hills, running for our lives. If you hear, which the guy said at Old Dominion today, Allah Akbar, it is not a term that you want to say Allah Akbar back. That is, you literally run for your life, and thank God for this cadet at Old Dominion who stabbed this guy to death, who was heroic in doing this. And if not for him, who knows how many more people would have died. And this is heroic. But again, these miracles are going to only last so long. And I love the FBI. I want the FBI to be back what it is. But we have so many documented cases going back to the Boston bomber, where we had so much active intel. Okay, this guy the second this guy was released from prison, should have had, if getting released from prison, he should have had an ankle bracelet, an ankle monitor on.
Why was he released from prison? He's an ISIS supporter. I mean,
Well, he was released from prison because, again, the prison system, the judicial system, is not capable of dealing with ideological terrorists. The prison system, the idea is you've committed a crime, we'll send you to jail, you think about what you've done, and you come out a reformed. You come out, and your rights are restored in as well. It is a very Christian concept. The way that our judicial, the way the prison system works, it's not supposed to punish. It's supposed to separate and provide opportunity to improve. And the fact is, these people do not these people cannot and will not improve. As long as they maintain their religious identity, they have adopted a fundamentalist view of their own religion. You could throw them in jail for 100 years and they stay terrorists. Right. One of the things about the Islamic terrorists, and you were mentioning this before the show, man, so maybe I'll let you talk about it. Is it can be transmitted intergenerationally, and good parents who are not who have no love for terrorists can raise kids who somehow find a soft spot and start acting like terrorists because of the religion that they believe in.
When it comes to religion, it's really easy for someone to do this like one-upsmanship game where they say, "Oh, you're gonna say give up meat for Lent. I'm gonna give up meat and candy." Right? So there's a lot of that within all religions. In Islam, it's you're gonna pray 5 times a day. I'm actually gonna go do some jihad and do God's work because it's in the book. It's what it says. You have to actually have an interpretation of the book that says that that's not what it means. It means internal jihad, whatever. And a lot of Muslims actually do that. But then you have a lot of them that don't. And then you have these kids that are being raised in the West by Muslim parents that are immigrants. The kids are born here and they look at their parents as weak and they don't know what they're doing. And they see these sermons either in their mosque or online, and they easily become radicalized. So you're seeing that this kid came from, I mean, the one of the, I think, was it the bombers in New York City at Mandamni's house that were trying to blow up the anti-Muslim gathering. That kid, his parents' house is like a $3 million house, $2.5 million house. He had a great life wherever he was living. It wasn't because of oppression. It wasn't because of anything. He was radicalized because a lot of these people believe it. And then you have these preachers online that are spewing it.
Not just online, man. They're doing it at their local mosques.
After 9/11,
Well,
they had FBI agents in the mosques to make sure that the imams there are not spreading this stuff, which is going to lead to violence domestically. And under Obama, I believe, and then under Biden, they got rid of all that. They were saying, "Oh, this is terrible. We can't be spying on American citizens." But look at what we're getting. We're getting radical Muslim attacks on a daily basis in this country. That's what happens when you don't do that. When you try to say, "No, no, no, we're going to say we're against anti-Semitism and Islamophobia." Every time it's and Islamophobia. There's a reason that people are afraid of Muslims. Every single plane hijacking and plane bombing and every single theater explosion and all these IEDs, all done by one group. It's not a phobia. It's a real fear. There was a meme on Instagram and TikTok going around where there was a barbershop full of people and a guy throws a bag in and he yells Allahu Akbar and everybody runs for their lives and he goes in and gets a haircut. It was to skip the line. But it's so accurate. It is so accurate.
Yeah, but Guy, I want to move on a little bit because I think that this really does go to your point, which is the bigger point, which is because we were curious last week. This all started with the conversation we were having in regards to what's a sleeper cell, what's a lone wolf. And you wrote a great piece, on Substack about with the lone wolves being part of the bigger pact. I encourage everybody to read his piece. It's absolutely amazing. So when you're looking at the bigger picture, this isn't a lone wolf. Okay, they're all part of a bigger pack. It doesn't mean they're all being together, sermonized by some imam to go and commit jihad. But it doesn't really matter when there's so much. When they're being inundated, as men brought up online, whether it's in a mosque, it doesn't really matter. At that point, it is a pact. It might not be in unison, but it's in a pact, which is why we're having it every day. Guys, so this morning, CNN broadcast Iranian TV for 4 minutes. They literally broadcast. I'm not making that. And I'm not making that up. For 4 minutes, Guy, they had Iranian TV on. Obviously, it's insane.
In fairness, during the revolution, Iranians were broadcasting Tucker Carlson, so it's a bit of a tit for tat.
Yes, that's exactly right.
It's the same CNN that, with the Mandamni attack, called it an attack on Mandamni. And Anna Navarro, that genius, that Einstein on The View, after she was told that it was a Muslim who threw the bomb at the anti-Muslim people, she goes, but it was at Mandamni's house, so it's still an attack on Mandamni. I mean, this is the level of people that we have talking to the nation.
This is the same CNN who originally posted about that incident that in the morning, two young boys from Pennsylvania went on a drive to New York on what could have otherwise been a wonderful.
That wrote that.
No, that was CNN.
That was CNN.
It was a post from CNN which they deleted, not realizing that people do take screenshots.
Yeah,
but that's CNN, and it's the same CNN that's put Christian Amanpour on air for however many years to spew Iranian regime propaganda. CNN. I saw that. She has really upset a lot of Iranians with her siding with the regime against the people, and now they've started really looking into her. And she has a lot of skeletons in her closet from her, allegedly. Allegedly has a lot of skeletons.
Yeah, Guy brought that up the other day. Her family's property and prestige were brought back because Christian Amanpour made a deal with the devil. Man, that's
CNN. That's who they are.
Right. That should be their tagline. This is CNN. Right. And just something in Arabic. And hopefully things will change soon over there. But this is CNN right now. I don't know how we're allowing it to happen. But, yesterday you want to talk about a false flag by ABC. ABC reported on this story, man, about the drones. It was an unverified story from one signal chat that they could not verify that drones were outside of California. ABC never should have gone with this story. But of course, so you have Gavin Newsom going, you're all safe, because I feel very safe with Gavin Newsom as our governor. But this was a story, man, that was not true. It should never have been reported. Obviously, the reason they did this is to harm the war effort that's going on in Iran. It's the only reason you report that story. It's to scare Americans and to say, this is Trump's fault. Blame President Trump that Iran drones are heading in the water from the West Coast. We have a lot more to worry. Okay, I'm more worried about the homeless people than I ever would be a drone in California. Okay, I got to be honest.
The story, that they brought a drone boat that was going to launch drones off our coast into the West Coast was a little far fetched. But Iranian sleeper cells, there's 20 million people that came across the border under Biden that was unvetted. We have no idea who they are. And some of them were actually, there were pictures of them. One was an
Mhm.
Azerbaijani terrorist who was just let out of jail. And he was at the border and he said, you'll see. He goes, you don't know who I am? You'll find out soon enough. So there's a lot of those people here. So you're talking about domestic attacks. We're going to see more.
Well, we are seeing it. We are seeing it.
But I'm talking about Iranians. We're talking about actual Iranians.
Well, don't forget that Iranians, I think the FBI said there were about 700 Hezbollah sleeper cells in the United States that they were hunting for, and Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran.
But nonetheless,
So,
man, this was.
They were here. They said that before Trump was even elected. And they knew
But
that those
Mhm.
Hezbollah groups were here when Biden had the open borders and they were hunting for Trump because they wanted to kill him because of Soleimani.
But
So
again,
they
this
have a
makes
lot
what ABC did even more dangerous. Because if you're going to report a fake story,
CNN is fake. They are spewing
ABC.
absolute Iranian regime propaganda. And now you have this story. You had the other story. You're going to see it all over the internet. 137 U.S. servicemen have been injured so far during this war. What they're not going to say is that 108 of them went immediately back to work. They put on a Band-Aid on their little scratch and they're back in service. So there's, of course, some soldiers did die in Kuwait with that, the Iranian ballistic missile that hit that outpost. I think it was in Kuwait. But for the most part, we are decimating those people, and our casualties, our losses are minuscule. And I hope it remains that way. This is war. People are going to die.
Mhm.
But I hope that they're able to keep it to this minimal level. And it's, as Judah's saying, you're absolutely correct. It is absolutely treasonous for these news agencies to put out fake news to panic the Americans in an effort to assist the enemy in ending this war. Because the Iranians are being very defiant. As Trump said, they haven't cried uncle yet, and I don't understand it. I don't understand it either. But all that means is they need to continue getting bombed. The Iranian people on the streets, they are celebrating. There's this BB June songs keep on coming out.
They have the image. They put a hologram image of the Israeli flag up.
Saw that in Tehran.
Israeli flag up in Iran. And it's interesting, Guy, what he just brought up is because you're right. We don't understand how they're holding up and all this stuff. Well, it's because they dug and they dug and they dug and they dug, and there's still some people that are surviving. But this is what is being used as a talking point by the podcasters, by the media online. This is part of their their warfare is attrition, right? It's like the Iranian war of attrition. And we could never win because if we're not winning now after 12 days, how could we possibly win after 21 days? Literally, this is the calculus that's going in to Tucker's brain, to ABC's brain, to CNN, and it's all over online. This is what you're seeing.
Well,
And
and in no small part, this was the calculus that they tried to use for Gaza as well, right? Because as soon as you take winning off the table, then you have no way to make the other side lose. And when the other side defines winning as not dying to the last man, and you define winning as something vague and ambiguous that you can't achieve, then all they have to do is live longer than you have the will to fight. And that's fundamentally, that has been the doctrine of Islamic warfare for the last 100 years, right? They believe that the West will lose its will to fight. That's why they have the soft jihad happening inside the West. That's why they have the Muqawama, the forever war doctrine in the Middle East. Their belief is not that they can win, it's that they can hold on long enough for us to give up. And historically speaking, it has worked because the West has had very little appetite for war for various reasons. And it's true. I mean, I understand the people that say we got burned on Iraq and Afghanistan. I get it. Because the idea of taking a bunch of 7th century barbarians and turning them into a democracy was a silly idea from the start. Regime change in that instance was not a good idea. We didn't understand the wars we were getting into. But that's not what every war is going to be like. And the fact that the West has no appetite to fight has meant that rather than fight a hard war at some point, we've avoided fighting many hard wars, and now they've taken over cities in America without ever having to lift a finger. Right? Dearborn, whatever that city is, Paterson, New Jersey, New York City.
Texas.
That's right. So it's true. Their strategy is if we outlive their willingness to kill us, then we win. Except for the fact that in the case of Iran, that's not the fight that we're fighting because they, as much as they like to think of themselves as the resistance, they are not the resistance. They are the establishment. They are a regime, and they are a regime who are not popular with their own people. And so there are a number of different ways that this can go that end in the Ayatollahs no longer running Iran. One of them is the regime alteration strategy that that President Trump used in Venezuela. Right, we get rid of the person at the top and inform the step number two. You can be the person at the top now, but if you don't do what we say, you're going. Well, the same thing has happened to the last guy will happen to you. Right. That's an option. There is an option that the Iranian people rise up. There is an option that the minorities, the Azeris, the Baluch, and the Kurds actually arm themselves. We've heard rumors that the IRGC forces are already rationing bullets because they've got no way to resupply anymore. The Chinese and Russians can't do airlifts anymore. That's over. The skies of Iran, and it's not air superiority. It is, in fact, complete air dominance. No air, no resupply is coming from anywhere.
No,
And
listen,
so,
I think you're raising a great point. And Mend, President Trump brought up something yesterday that I posted about. I'm not saying he took it from me. I'm saying I loved what he said. It was at one of the event rallies. I think it was in Kentucky where he was speaking, and he said basically, "I'm doing this because what happens when I'm not here?" And I absolutely love that he brought that up. Is that President Trump is doing the ugly because he has kids, he has grandkids, and he wants a future for this great country.
Mhm.
And the point he made, which is brilliant, and he's 100% right, especially with the cabinet he has now, is if not now, then when? Okay, because God forbid we let another dem
Mhm.
in, we're done. We're done. And the Iranians know this. And this is something they counted on. They didn't count on Donald Trump. He
Yeah,
was the fly in the ointment, okay? From Die Hard. He was literally that was it. And thank God we have him.
absolutely. But before I jump in, Guy, was there something you wanted to finish there? It sounded like there was another piece.
No, I was going to say that the only thing I was going to say is that the number of options for the regime to be replaced today are much bigger. And the other thing that I think is really important to note is it's actually a race to see who can play their cards faster. And the Iranians have been holding back the Houthis. The Houthis have not been particularly engaged up until today. The fact that the Houthis got engaged today before America was demoralized is very good for us because it means that they're down to their last resort. They're already playing their sort of aces up the sleeve well before America has lost its will to fight. And the last thing I want to say about understanding this fight is the media in America are really big on what I'm starting to call interceptor calculus. Oh, but if they have this many interceptors, or if they have this many missiles and we have this many interceptors, and it's going to take this many days until we can't intercept anymore. And I have a friend called Daniel R. Bess who wrote an excellent article on Substack, which basically changed the paradigm. He said, America's offensive capacity is unlimited. Its defensive capacity is limited. The decision that the administration made to go on the offense means that the interceptor calculus is all a distraction because if you look at the graph of launches, within a week, the level of interceptors being used up went from lots to very few because of the fact that we went on offense. And so there is the traps that people are trapped in, the paradigms of thinking that a lot of the analysts are thinking about have the limitations of 20th century warfare or late 20th century warfare where we're trying to be nice. And the fact that President Trump and the Secretary of War and the armed forces have taken the gloves off and are going on the offense changes all the maths that people are imagining.
No, that's absolutely accurate. You're right. When it comes to offensive capabilities, we're unmatched. When it comes to defensive capabilities, we're capped at the amount of interceptors that we have. So it is a great calculation that the Israelis and the Americans have been going around taking out their launching capabilities, anything that can hit us first. That's what they went after first. And it's an absolute miracle, divine intervention, providence, call it whatever you want, that Donald Trump was elected president because he's doing the hard
Mhm.
work. He's doing the work that no other president was willing to do. They were all kicking the can down the road. We all knew that they were going for a bomb. It was just a matter
Mhm.
of, is it 2 weeks? Is it 2 years? We don't know. We think that you can get from 60 to 90 in 2 weeks, but are we going to see that happening? Are we going to be able to prevent them from doing that? They're burrowing underground. We see them digging down. Our bunker buster could go down. What is it? 90 feet? They're already at 120 feet. Like that was what they were doing. And they were excellent at delaying this. And when Trump gave them the ultimatum and he gave them the off ramp, they did not take it. They thought they just had another demented US president that didn't have the will to do it. I love the fact that Trump is not ruling out boots on the ground, although I'm against boots on the ground. But I don't want the Iranians to know that. I want the Iranians to think, don't do anything. It doesn't matter.
He's not, this is like really where it's important that nobody ever takes Trump, that we never take him at times literally, that you have to, when he says the war is coming to an end, it's a very ambiguous statement. We have no idea what that means. He's not being specific in what he says. So at no point does he.
What we did see is that Trump's willing to adapt based on new evidence or new information. Everybody's like, but he said this and now he's doing that. No, he did this thing. He saw that it wasn't either popular or it wasn't the right course, and he will course correct, which is great. That's what you want. You want someone who's willing to make those adjustments on the fly and keep this ship steered correctly. And so if he says it's going to be over in a few weeks or it's winding down, it is winding down. What does that mean exactly? He's waiting for them to capitulate.
But that's my point.
And he keeps on taking out all of their offensive weapons. Now they're going after those bunkers, the missile cities that are underground.
But men, that's my point, is while he has to worry about the economy and the oil, and at the same time, those comments sort of stabilize the economy. They stabilize.
You saw there was a tweet that went out that said the U.S. escorted a tanker through the Straits of Hormuz. And immediately the oil markets responded and oil dropped. And then later in the day, the White House had to come out and say, no, that was a misstatement. We did not escort any boats yet through the Straits of Hormuz, and oil prices shot right up.
Right.
He's seeing that, and he's like, okay, so we need to make these adjustments. We need to make sure that passage can get through, and that's what he's focused on. They're not even going to blow up the Iranian oil. There's the oil island, whatever it's called, that little island.
Karg.
That one.
Karg Island.
They're not going to blow that up. They're not going to blow it up now. The only time I think that America will take out that island is if we're going to wind down this war while the regime is still in place. If there's any chance of this regime falling, they want to keep that oil flowing so that the new regime in Iran will have funds to pay all of their employees. So they're taking...
And the American contractors who come to rebuild Iran.
That too. That's an added bonus. Yippee.
It's
Guy, finish up the point, because I wanted to ask you about a picture that's circulating all over. So finish up.
No, so I was going to say that I think one of the things is that everybody keeps trying to read what President Trump is saying. And everybody forgets that at his core, President Trump is a New York real estate businessman. He understands negotiation at a level that most people never will. And whether or not he wrote the art of the deal, he understands the art of the deal more than anybody else, or at least with the best of them. This is something that what he's doing when he messages the way that he does is he creates something that you can call strategic ambiguity, right? Nobody really knows what he really thinks. Nobody really knows which one he meant and which one he didn't meant. And that's by design, because his audience, when it comes to talking about the end of the war, is the Iranians. And the Iranians' messaging is, we're tough and we're never going to give up. And the fact that Trump comes out and says, look, maybe this is all over and we're wrapping it up. And they go, oh, maybe we're safe. And then he goes, well, maybe I'm just going to blow the shit out of them. And they go, ooh, that didn't end well last time, right? So whenever the American media think there are, is he really going to come and if you walked into a negotiation to buy a home, would you really come and lay out on the table, this is what my assets look like, this is how much money I have, this is how much I'm really willing to pay, this is how much I'd really like to pay, and this is what I'm going to tell you in the hope that you'll give me something better than what No, you go in, you hide as many of your cards as you can, you make sure that they don't quite know if you like the home, if you don't like the home. The goal is to deprive your enemy of information, because then you have more of the advantage in the negotiation. And Trump is negotiating. He is negotiating with lots and lots of bombs, but he is negotiating.
Okay, so Guy, what I wanted to ask you is, because we're seeing this all over, is this underground city of drones. These videos of Iran with this massive tunnel system to protect the Strait of Hormuz. And this is like what we're seeing. And when you see it, it looks really absolutely frightening. And obviously, I don't think that these aren't AI videos. I'm guessing, right? These are
Mhm.
actual real videos of what Iran has spent billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars on building.
The wealth of a nation. Yeah. And so Iran have created these underground missile cities and underground drone cities. Iran's entire defensive strategy was was threatening everybody around them that they would be able to unleash an unrelenting force from these cities that you couldn't do anything about. One of the things that's been really interesting, and this is where warfare can be full of surprises, and planning is, it was, I want to say it was General Patton that said a plan, but a plan is great until it comes into contact with action. The problem with planning is that you're planning and the other side is planning, and war is actually all about surprising. I have a friend who studied in the Australian Military Academy, and one of the things they said is that every operator has what's called an OODA loop, an observe and decide act loop. And at the end of the day, war is won by whoever can insert themselves and break the other side's loop. So while the other side is trying to plan, you're trying to figure out how to, not what your plan is, but how to interrupt their plan in order that your plan can succeed. When Hamas came up with the idea of the tunnels, dig tunnels infinitely deep under the ground so that the Israeli aircraft can't get us. Their plan was a very good plan. And then some person in a bunker somewhere in Israel sat and thought, you know what we could do though? We can't blow up the tunnels, but we could blow up the entrances. And if there are no entrances, tunnels are no good to anybody. And that's the exact strategy that the United States implemented yesterday in Iran. So yesterday, I believe, I would have to find the exact number, but I believe that there were about 10 of these missile cities. The B-52s, the B-52s came in, dropped piles of explosive on the entrances and rendered them inaccessible. So yeah, they've got great cities, look great
Well, that's what
underground tunnels filled with
thank you for
drones, missiles, very scary, but they can't
that's what
get
I
to them
was
now.
that's what I was asking. So, men, I think people could relax a little bit because those are frightening videos. And those, when you see those videos, they do add to when we get fake reports that Iran is going to drone California. And as people have brought up, why California? It's a blue state. They're pro
They're
Iran.
on their side.
They couldn't have chosen. You can't go, but we are off the ocean, and most liberal states and cities are off the ocean. It tends to be the case, man. But you've seen those videos too, and it's absolutely like. But again, man, to all the talking heads that don't think Iran was an existential threat or imminent danger or whatever you want to call it, look at what they built. Look at what they've built. Look at what they've been launching.
Which is the best
Imagine if,
argument. Marco Rubio made that argument.
right.
Like if you're doing peaceful nuclear research, you don't bury it under a mountain. That alone gives it away. Forget about everything else. Forget about the fact that you went from 3% enrichment to 90%. Forget about the fact that you're an oil exporter. You have so much oil that you don't need nuclear energy. But look at what they built. They have these missile cities and these, I guess they call them drone cities and drone underwater drone, whatever, docks. They have all this stuff that they built, which is all offensive. Look at what they've done for the last 47 years. They've sowed chaos throughout the Middle East. They didn't stay within their borders. They didn't just
Mhm.
oppress their own people. They exported it. They exported it across the region, all the way to Lebanon,
And
destabilized
across
that whole country.
all the way to Venezuela, all the way to the
Venezuela,
southern
sure.
United States, all the way to the UK.
So it's
Their ambition was to export the revolution across the entire world.
yeah. And when those people that say, "Oh, this has nothing to do with us Americans," it has everything to do with us Americans. We are their prime target. They would attack our assets and our citizens across the globe. So, smacking them down, you can't have this little rat, saber rattling, threatening the region when he's just a little rat. You squash him, you put him in a little mousetrap, and you smash him. And that's what's being done right now. So I am all for this. And I'm also hoping that they're able to extend this out for at least another 3 weeks. And the idea there is you smash every single offensive weapon that they own. You kill every one of their scientists or any one of their bomb makers that you can get your hands on. You diminish them to the point that the local populace would have the balls to rise up and take back their country. The Persian people are being held hostage by the Islamic regime. That is the main talking point. That is what needs to be out there. These people are being held hostage by a regime that threatens America and the globe on a daily basis. And we've had enough. We have the might, we have the power to smash them, and we're doing it.
Well said. Guy, before the show, I was talking with David from friend of the show, who's in the rants right now. We were talking about X, and it's sort of like this quagmire that we have with X, right? So when Jack Dorsey ran X, conservatives were being shadow banned. They were being, obviously they were working with the government during COVID. They were silencing us. I mean, there was so much bad stuff going on with Twitter under Jack Dorsey that we were like, oh my God, Elon Musk, thank God he bought it. And for a long time, I had agreed. It was like he saved America. He saved the Constitution by buying X. But now you're looking at it, and there are no safeguards on X whatsoever. People are allowed to. You have accounts that are big accounts, supposedly, right? That are posting these fake fake images of Tel Aviv being destroyed that are staying up. You have some of the most insane accounts of the head of Mossad being killed, of Bibi being assassinated, and these accounts.
Who cares? It's hilarious. If anything, it's comedy.
It's not comedy. It's not even close to comedy. It's absolutely extremely dangerous, guy, when you have people that are spreading this stuff. And I don't understand for the life of me why these accounts are not shut down.
So there's a couple of things to what you're saying, but you're right. You're touching on something really important, and I think that to some extent this is the Goldilocks story, right? One bowl is too hot, one bowl is too cold. We've got the same thing. Under Jack Dorsey, there was too little freedom. People couldn't actually express themselves. It was a serious problem, and that was dangerous for America. The truth is, there is such a thing as an excess of freedom of speech. And I say that with a a well-practiced and well-thought-through conscience on this, because I've been an advocate for freedom of speech for my entire life. And one of the things that I understand is that freedom of speech is a privilege, not a right. It is a responsibility that you bear. And the responsibility that comes with it is to use that speech for the benefit of the group that you're a part of. And at the end of the day, when there is a group that if you consider yourself to be a part of a group that is other than the group that we are a part of, you become a risk to you can become a threat to our society. How do we deal with that? I don't know. I think it is a very dangerous line to try to draw, and that I think that's why historically conservatives have erred on the side of too much freedom. But I think that one of the critiques of liberalism and one of the critiques of the modern West is that an excess of freedom is deranging in the same way that an excess of authority can be deranging. And there's a balance, and it has to be a healthy and well thought out balance. And by the way, I think that to some extent is what the Constitution is in its essence. Why? Because the Constitution does not prevent people from limiting your speech. The Constitution does not say you, Judah, by virtue of being American, can say whatever you like to whoever you like and not suffer any consequences. All it says is the government shall not be the arbiter of what you can say and who can say it. Right? And so it may be necessary to consider how responsible speech looks, and it may be that we shouldn't censor what people say, but rather we have to make people accountable for consistently behaving badly and say, you know what? If I had a friend that came into my house every day and started telling me tall stories that got me really upset about our other friend and made me lose sleep, lose money, and lose relationships, eventually I decide not to be that person's friend and that I don't want him in my house. That's not saying he can't speak, just that he can't speak here.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you on this. And man, the reason I bring this up is because, as I've said, and I said before, President Trump miraculously again survived the Butler shooting and the other assassination attempt on him, because that was the next logical thing that was going to happen. If you keep on saying stuff out loud and you keep on screaming anti-Zionism is an anti-Semitism and so on and so forth and this and that and this and that, and all day long on X, you have nut jobs reading this stuff coming from some of the biggest voices in the world eventually you're going to have somebody that goes to a school today and drives a van loaded up with loaded up with,
What did you
you
think
know,
globalized the Intifada would look like?
that's exactly right. And so, men, that's the problem. And it's not just like it's silly. That's the eventuality. It's just the next step. And Tucker, I was really surprised, went after Laura Loomer today, um, with lies, obviously, about, him not saying that. He never said Chabad was this or Chabad was that. I don't know if you saw it. I sent you the
Hmm.
response, but I was like, I remember you hearing that Chabad was like the New World Order. I mean, so enough people, men, start listening to these whack jobs. It's no different than them listening to an imam.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Muslim radicalization of youth is a much bigger problem than misinformation on social media. X has some tools built in. You see a post that's crazy, you could click the top three little dots and say, "Not interested in this." That feeds back to the algorithm, and enough people do that, it'll be undone. The problem with that is that there are so many bots on X that you're fighting an uphill
But that's my
battle.
point. That's what I'm saying to you. So you're proving my point. I agree with right. I agree with you. If it was as simple as us going like this, 3 clicks, you're out,
Well, I
and
think there's
then
two parts to this. I think X needs to get rid of the bots, and that is something that Elon
Hmm.
should be tackling because obviously it's amplifying the crazy. It's amplifying the anti-American stuff. It's downplaying all of the Islamic violence that we're seeing. That's number one. Number two, I click those three buttons. I say not interested in this junk. It's a recommendation engine, and they get enough feedback, they will stop recommending that. But as far as like imams radicalizing young people to go out and commit actual acts of violence, that is off the charts. That is way more of an issue as far as us maintaining our way of life. Now you have
I'm not, by the way, okay, just I'm not saying in any way right now Tucker is on the level of the imams in the online and in the mosques. What I'm saying is eventually when you put enough of these voices together and you add the bots that amplify it, that is the
Jake Shields
direction.
is,
Sorry?
but Tucker might not be, but Jake Shields is.
Yes. And Don Jr. follows Jake Shields.
Right.
Don Jr. follows.
And so the Tuckers create the permissive environment for people to follow people like Tucker and therefore Jake Shields, and therefore to start listening to Jake Shields, to Andrew Tate, to all of these degenerates. And at the end of the day, they are radicalizing Western, I'm going to call it the young Western male audience in much the same way as the imams radicalize the young Muslim males, in much the same way as the progressive extremists radicalize the young Western women. Right. And so there are these different audiences, but the effect is actually the same. And that's why you start to see these similarities between the behavior of these groups. And so there's a question of at what point does does Ayatollah Carlson become enough of a threat to America that he shouldn't have a TV, he shouldn't have the airwaves?
I've said this in the past where I thought he should be kicked off of Twitter, off
We
all
know
of
we
Twitter.
had this discussion last week. We had this.
I'm not talking about it from a free speech standpoint. I'm talking about it from if I was Elon and I owned X and that guy was on my platform ruining my platform for my advertisers, just from a business
Mhm.
standpoint, I'd get rid of him. So from that standpoint, I would say
But
one,
he's got Black Rifle Coffee.
Yeah,
which
which
is
is
bad. I'm never going to use Black Rifle Coffee again.
man. But here's the thing: the bigger point is this. It's like if there was no amplification, I'd be okay. Listen, there's no amplification. You just have which is what life used to be. Just a bunch of people screaming on the corner, right? And they were nuts. But now it's amplified. So now you have people like Brett Weinstein going on Tucker's show saying, not implying, but pretty much saying out loud that Bibi
Uh,
Netanyahu was pretty much killed Charlie Kirk.
What?
I was it. I
Weinstein said
haven't
that?
said. Yeah, yeah. It was for not Brett Weinstein, not Eric.
Brett
Brett's come off
Weinstein.
the rails, but his
Brett
argument was
Weinstein.
essentially, "I've seen no evidence to prove this, and I've said there's nothing to support it. But the fact that Bibi came out so quickly to say that Israel had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk's death, well, that made me think that
Like a
actually,
mafia boss.
yeah."
No,
than
he used
actual.
that exact words. He's like a mafia boss. He came out
Right,
and
but
basically,
he also said there's no, now he says, like, I've seen no evidence to support this. There's no proof, but
yeah, and
it was
it,
insane.
no, but that's just like the tip of the insanity iceberg of what we're witnessing. Listen, we all
But
get
Brett
caught.
Weinstein was sane once.
Yeah, I know.
That's the scary part. He's a smart guy and he was sane once.
It's
And now he is
amazing.
down the rabbit hole.
Well, you know what a lot of it is, man, and you're in the business, but man, you're specifically in the business of people staying relevant. When when people become irrelevant, it's like you look at Sam Harris, and this is the Sam Harris problem. He couldn't adapt. He really could not adapt. Sam Harris, his Trump derangement syndrome, like overrides everything that his really brilliant brain allows. And he can't have a critical conversation because of his hatred towards Trump. Now, I'll credit Sam Harris for not being into clicks. He's definitely lost a lot of his cachet because of this. But people like Eric Weinstein, Brett Weinstein, whichever Weinstein it is, man, they're not relevant anymore, and they're willing
Brett,
to do
Eric,
anything.
Eric is
Brett,
very.
so Brett, so well, wait till he doesn't get any more clicks. But Brett Weinstein, man, it's like when you become irrelevant, what are you not willing to do? Look at what Megyn Kelly's doing. Look at what all these people, man.
Mhm.
It's the go-to, but I'm surprised at Brett Weinstein doing that. I mean, the guy's extremely bright.
You've been surprised a lot since we've been doing this show. A lot of people have surprised you, and it's El Turbo said to me in the rants, Pilar in the Rumble rant said to me, I got to give it to you, man. I got to toast you on the Mike Flynn thing. Calling out Mike Flynn many months ago as being another one of these grifters. Listen, we're in a world full of grifters. We try to not be that. The reason I bring this stuff up isn't to say I'm right. I wish I was not right about these people because they pose a great danger to our country and they pose a great danger to the world right now. And I think, man, you're the one that brought this up, and maybe it was Golan. I think it was Golan that if we were at war right now, these people would be traitors.
Yeah, yeah. They talk about aiding and abetting the enemy. So I'm still wrapped up in Brett Weinstein because I used to listen to his Dark Horse podcast.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
When it came to COVID stuff, he had excellent takes on it.
Mhm.
Forget about
I used to watch it too.
that the guy is Jewish. I mean, he should know better. He's smart. He should know better than to go on Tucker's podcast. I don't understand why they haven't blackmailed or blacklisted Tucker's podcast. I wouldn't go on that podcast. The guy calls us 3 times a week asking us to go on. I would never go on that guy's podcast. He's irrelevant. And anyone that I know that used to like Tucker, he's fallen in a whole bunch of in the rankings to everyone I know. Some people will never listen to him anymore,
and that's why JD
and some people
who did not take our advice that I was posting for months. JD is well below Rubio right now, and who people want to become the next president of the United States. I listen. People are going to say it's for many reasons. You're the one that sent me the article yesterday where you said, Rubio has raised his stature because of Iran. His stature was raised way before Iran even started. There were memes going around for months
now.
But I'm
Mhm.
just saying,
everything.
For months we've been seeing memes of him, this job and that job and that job, and Trump even before Iran.
I'll tell you this: JD had one job, be a continuation of the Trump administration, and you'd win. You'd be a shoo-in. You'd be the next president. And he decided to take a different route. He decided to take the Tucker Carlson route, and he's trying to play this somewhere in the middle where I'm not really for the war, but I'm not going to come out and speak against the war, and like just all this ambiguity, and it's hurting him. So I hope he gets to wake up and say,
Yeah,
I'm going to pick a side. I'm going to be on the side with my boss, the guy who chose me to be his VP, and not on the side of the guy who's working out of his basement after getting fired from Fox.
Yeah, let's we'll keep on. If wishes were whatever.
There's nothing wrong with hope.
But there is something about being honest in the moment and saying
honest in the moment is he's on the wrong team.
I just want to read
said that.
before we end. I just want to, because Guy, I think Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports sort of summed this up perfectly. He said, "You know what? When there are terrorist attacks on the U.S. by extremists, I'd prefer that the same politicians and podcasters who egg them on with nonstop inflammatory rhetoric and by endorsing Hamas rallies and who refuse to condemn phrases like globalize the intifada." Oh my God, this is a long one. I didn't realize Dave Portnoy. And then who blame everything on Jews, then don't try to act surprised or sympathetic when these attacks happen. It's insulting and you're not fooling anybody. I'd rather Mamdani be more like his wife, who probably already smashed the like button a billion times and threw a party at Gracie Mansion. At least she owns it. Give me the straightforward hatred rather than the hypocrisy. And I sort of love that coming from Dave Portnoy. I don't want to see from AOC or Rashida Tlaib any of these people talking about the synagogue thing today. I don't want to hear synagogue or Jew come out of your mouth. I really don't. I absolutely do not. And I'm really glad that Dave Portnoy had the courage to come out and say this.
Look at that. Dave Portnoy has come out smarter than Brett Weinstein. Brett Weinstein, the acclaimed scientist and fucking genius. Sorry, beep that out. But Brett Weinstein is coming across 30 levels below Dave Portnoy, the sports guy who eats pizza, reviews pizza.
I apologize for having to run, but I am going to run.
Okay.
It was lovely seeing you all. Be safe.
Yeah,
God bless.
Be safe. Did you hear something? You got to run like that? Go. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
I need to have a thing where I'm saying I'm coming to you from a bomb shelter. So if I need to go to the bathroom, I say, hey, I got to go. It's an excuse. I could be out at any time.
You know, this is how I know you have not been
forward. My location is Tel Aviv, and if I raise my hand, Judah, it means I gotta go.
This is how I know you have not been listening, because this is what I've been saying to Guy, is that he has the ultimate excuse. You know,
you give him a lot of props for doing this show from where he is in his bomb shelter during a war. It's fantastic.
And in all seriousness, though, we have to end it. But I just want to say, God bless Guy. God bless everybody right now. Obviously, there are missiles headed his way. It's a frightening thing. And as we were joking before the show, yes, the people in Israel have to laugh about it. So they create these apps and they create all these things to make life a little bit better right now. But Guy has not gotten more than 2 hours of straight sleep a night.
Crazy.
And that goes for the rest of most of the people in Israel right now. They're not sleeping for more than 2 hours a night. And nobody talks about that, man. Nobody talks about that because they have the ability to defend themselves. And thank God they do. But if they didn't, it wouldn't be 2 hours of sleep. They'd be dead.
You know who's really kicking ass in this war? Just before we end, the United Arab Emirates are using, I believe, some Israeli technology, but mostly South Korean technology to shoot down the missiles. And they've been fired upon more than Israel, more than anyone else in the region. I think it's UAE, then Saudi Arabia.
Yes, so UAE got whaled.
Bahrain, which has almost no protection, also got whaled, and they thought they were allies with the Iranians. But the United Arab Emirates are proving to be resilient in this war. It's amazing to see what they have going on. It's really incredible. But before we end off on a dark note with all the attacks and bombs and drones and everything that's coming.
And by the way, I'm sorry about Brett Weinstein. I didn't mean to disappoint you. Like I'm being serious about that. I could tell that
I went to his podcast and I unfollowed it.
I got to tell you, really, I did not mean to do that.
It is what it is. You didn't do it. He did it. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and he just won one less viewer. I haven't really listened to the show in a while anyway. It was a little bit of a tough listen, but every once in a while he had a good episode.
Anyways, end us up on the good news.
The good news is that, look, everybody's focusing on the terrible things that are going on in our country, from the masses of illegal aliens that are slaughtering and killing our children and innocent people on the subway. You read about it and see it every day, to the attacks against religious institutions, especially Jewish, a lot of Christian, being attacked by these radical Muslims. There's a lot to focus on where it comes to the negative stuff, but we want to counter that. And we've put up an organization called Make Americans Proud Again. And we are highlighting any American that did something that's exceptional. And we would like for our audience and anyone in the greater audience to submit. If there's someone that you think should be on this list, go to Make Americans Proud Again, MAPA.
I'm number 1 on the list.
You are in there, but you're on the advisory council, I believe, or one of the councils. But we should put Judah in as an exceptional American. We're going to get to that. But anyone else, if you have someone that you think should be on there, put it in there or put it in the chat or message us directly. It doesn't matter. But we want to make people proud. The idea here is we're going to put up a social campaign, and then we're going to do a real world, physical world campaign where we highlight American heroes from the cities and towns that they came from. And just to let people know, let the kids know that there is someone to look up to, not just that idiot twerking on TikTok, but actual heroes, people that have made it. So let's check it out. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you think.
Check it out. And everybody, thank you for checking us out. Thank you for all the help you give us everywhere. We love the interaction, especially where we get to interact with you on Rumble and on Truth Social. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. You could find us everywhere at thedailycheatsheet.com. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world. Wherever you are, God bless you all.